I am Margaret Collins, age 59, unmarried, living in a tranquil part of Oregon. For nearly 2 decades, I have worked as an office manager at a law firm. I raised 2 children, my daughter Emily, who just turned 32, and my son Luke, who is 29, devoting much of my adult years to making sure they would never know the struggles I went through. On a Tuesday not long ago, I received an email that changed everything in my life. The sender was Emily. There was no subject line, just her name showing in my inbox. I smiled before opening it, thinking it might be a quick note or a loving message before her big day. We had just talked about her wedding plans a few weeks earlier. I had already sent $30,000 to help her secure the venue, pay for a photographer, and reserve the florist she had loved since her college years. But when I read the message, my smile vanished. "Mom," the message started. Not "Dear Mom," just Mom like a label. Emily explained that she, along with her fiancé Andrew and his family, had finalized the guest list for the ceremony in Napa Valley. After much discussion, they decided it would be better for me to watch the wedding through online broadcast, not in person. She mentioned that Andrew's mother was particular about the guest count and wanted to keep things intimate. Near the end, she included a line that felt like salt in an open wound. "If you want to join, you can watch it through the Google Meet link we have set up. It should be the same as being there in person. Lol. I stared at that screen for a long time. My coffee went cold. My hand stayed still. I didn't cry. Something inside me quietly shifted like the ground had cracked below, but I remained standing. I replied with just 4 words, "Sure. Have a great day." No emotion, no argument, just a quiet withdrawal. And I knew deeply that those 4 words would echo more strongly than any scream. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want tears. I wanted clarity. I wanted the silence to speak for itself. I closed the laptop, drank my now cold coffee, and got ready for work as if it were a normal Tuesday. But it wasn't. That was the day I stopped pretending my contributions mattered to my daughter. That was the day everything began to change. The drive to work that morning was quiet. Oregon's early spring air still held a chill, but I barely noticed it. My mind kept going back to the same question. How did we get here? I have spent 18 years working at Caldwell Walker Law. It isn't glamorous, but it offers stability. And stability was what I needed after my husband's sudden death when our kids were still teenagers. I remember standing over our old washing machine. Bills spread across the counter, trying to figure out how to buy both groceries and Emily's upcoming tuition payment. Back then, I never thought twice about giving up my weekends. I took extra shifts, cancelled planned vacations, skipped birthday parties. I told myself chances for me would come later. They never did. Every dollar I saved went to Emily and Luke. When Emily changed her major twice and needed extra courses, I paid for it. When she moved across the country for a temporary job opportunity in New York, I covered her deposit and plane ticket. When she cried through her second breakup at 27, I flew there, held her, and made her soup in a strange apartment. When Luke wanted to buy a house with his girlfriend, I co-signed the mortgage and gave the first $10,000 down payment without hesitation. I never kept track. That is what mothers do, right? But that message made me feel like a business transaction, as if I had been useful and now was not. As if I had an expiration date and it had passed. Back at work, my boss Robert came by my desk. He is one of those rare men who remembers dates and your coffee order. He sensed something was wrong right away. "You look like you have seen a ghost," he said, setting a coffee from the shop downstairs on my desk. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to say my daughter just excluded me from her wedding, but instead I smiled and said I hadn't slept well. He didn't push. That small act of kindness, the coffee, the silence almost broke me. After all the chaos that morning, it reminded me that I still existed, that I still had worth, even if just quietly. During lunch break, my phone buzzed. Emily again. Her name lit up my screen like a warning. I didn't want voicemails, text messages. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. This isn't funny. I didn't listen to any messages. Not now. I just sat there drinking my coffee and thought, maybe it is time to stop being the person who always answers. Maybe it is time to stop playing a role in someone else's story when they won't let you on the stage. That afternoon, I made a decision that would shake the ground beneath all of us. I would not yell. I would not beg. I was going to do something far more powerful. I was going to take action. After work, I didn't go straight to my house. I drove to First Federal Bank, a few blocks from the office. Carlos, the branch manager, had helped me with everything from setting up college accounts to adjusting retirement plans. He always greeted me by name. Mrs. Collins, he smiled, standing to shake my hand. What can I do for you today? I sat across from him and placed my purse on the counter. My voice was steady, maybe too steady. I need to cancel a wire transfer, I said. He looked surprised. The transfer to the Napa venue. Yes, that transfer. Carlos hesitated. There may be a cancellation fee depending on timing, but may I ask why? The circumstances have changed, I replied without elaborating. He checked something on his screen. You have good timing. It hasn't finished processing yet. Just in time. He paused, then looked at me. Are you sure, Mrs. Collins? $50,000 is a significant amount, I nodded. I am sure. $50,000. That was the amount I had planned to send next in addition to the $30,000 already gone. $80,000 total for a wedding I was banned from attending. I signed the necessary papers and left the bank without looking back. When I got to my house, there were 9 missed calls from Emily to from Luke. One voicemail just said, Mom, please don't do this. I turned off my phone. In the kitchen, I grabbed the bottle of red wine I had been saving for Thanksgiving. I hadn't opened it that day. Emily was supposed to come, but she cancelled last-minute work, she said. I poured a glass, carried it outside to the porch, and sat in the fading light. Birds sang in the bushes. A neighbour's dog barked. Everything felt still. And then the memories started coming in waves. All the birthdays I planned alone. All the holiday dinners where I pretended I wasn't waiting for a call that never came. All the small sacrifices that nobody noticed. The new shoes I didn't buy. The car I drove for 14 years. The trips I postponed. I thought about Andrew's mother. The woman who barely knew Emily. Yet her opinion mattered more than mine. The woman whose idea of family meant excluding the one person who had stood by Emily through every hard moment of her life. I thought about how Emily ended her message with lol, as if watching your own daughter's wedding through a screen was funny. And finally, I thought about myself, not as a mother, not as a widow, but as a woman. What did I want? Peace, dignity, a life that didn't revolve around being useful to people who only showed up when they needed something. That night, around 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I thought about ignoring it, but curiosity got me. It was Luke, still in his work clothes, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked uncomfortable, holding his phone in one hand like a shield. "Mom," he said, stepping inside before I could speak, "why aren't you answering your phone? Emily is freaking out." I shut the door calmly. "Hello to you too." He sighed, already pacing. "She says you aren't coming to the wedding now, that you are being difficult." I laughed. Difficult for not attending a wedding I was excluded from. He shifted uncomfortably. "Andrew's parents are paying for most of it." "Mom, you know how traditional they are." I raised an eyebrow. Traditional. I already paid $30,000. I was about to send $50,000 more. "That isn't tradition. That is a transaction," he froze. "Wait, you were sending another 50. Was I said, sipping my wine. "But not now." Luke's face went pale. "Mom, they are counting on that." "The venue, the catering, they're not my problem now," I said evenly. His voice rose. "Of course it is your problem. She is your daughter." "And I am her mother," I said quietly. A mother who was told to stay at her house and watch from a screen. He ran his hands through his hair, clearly agitated. "You always make everything about yourself." And that was it. That was the moment something inside me finally broke. "Leave my house. What?" "You heard me, Luke. Leave. Mom." "No," I said, firm but soft. "I have given everything I had, and I am done being the villain in a story I wrote with love." Luke stood there for a moment longer, then turned and left. The door clicked behind him softly, but it felt louder than any slam. I stood in the middle of my living room, heart pounding, and realized something amazing. I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. The next morning, I woke to 43 missed calls and a string of frantic messages from Emily. They started with passive-aggressive apology. "Mom, we need to talk." "Why are you doing this?" "This is childish." Then the tone changed. "The venue just called. The wire didn't go through. We are going to lose everything if we don't pay by tomorrow. Andrew's parents are furious. They said this proves they were right about you." At 3:24 in the morning, she sent, "I don't understand why you are doing this to me." I smiled into my coffee. Of course she didn't understand. Emily had grown up with my sacrifices woven so deeply into her life that she never stopped to look at where the comfort came from, the safety, the security. She just assumed it would always be there, that I would always be there. But not this time. Later that morning, while I was reviewing contracts at my desk, an email popped into my personal inbox. The subject line said, "Please don't ruin my wedding." I opened it without expectation. "Mom," she wrote, "I know you are upset about the Livestream thing, but this is too much. We have lost the venue deposit, and if we don't pay the balance by end of day Paris time, the caterer pulls out. Andrew's parents are very upset. They are saying, 'This proves you can't be reasoned with. Please don't do this. We can talk about you coming to the ceremony, but we need the money first.'" There it was. They were willing to discuss letting me attend now that the money was gone. Not an apology, not a thought, a negotiation. As if my presence at my own daughter's wedding could be bargained, bought, or traded based on how generous I was feeling. I didn't reply. I closed the email and went back to my work. At noon, and Robert stopped by my desk. "Lunch," he suggested. "That new Italian place just opened." I almost declined as I usually did, but something in me changed. Maybe it was the clarity of the past 24 hours. Maybe I just needed to put myself somewhere that didn't ask anything from me. So I agreed. I would like that. Over pasta, he told me about his grandchildren and how exhausting but wonderful it was to chase them. His face was kind, real. He paused and said gently, "Forgive me, Margaret, but you seem lighter today." I surprised myself. I told him everything about Emily, the email, the wedding, the money, and what I did. When I finished, he didn't judge. He didn't try to fix anything. He just said, "Sometimes the hardest part of love is setting boundaries, especially with the people we have given the most to." He reached across the counter and briefly squeezed my hand. "I think you did the right thing." For the first time in a long time, I thought so too. When I got back to my desk, there were more calls, more texts, but I didn't answer. I didn't need to because for the first time, my silence said everything. That evening, as I pulled into my driveway, the sky was already darkening. The porch light came on automatically. Everything looked still peaceful, even. But there was someone sitting on my front steps. As I got closer, I recognized her. Sophia. She stood up quickly, brushing invisible dust from her dress. Sophia had been Emily's best friend since 5th grade. She spent countless weekends at our house, baking cookies, watching movies, laughing in sleeping bags until dawn. I hadn't seen her in years. Mrs. Collins, she said softly. "I'm sorry to show up like this." "It's okay," I answered, unlocking the door. "Would you like some tea?" She followed me into the kitchen, her eyes scanning the familiar counters. They held old echoes. I filled the kettle and waited. "Emily sent you?" I finally asked. She didn't answer immediately. "Then she's in crisis." They lost the venue. The florist backed out. Andrew's parents are threatening to cancel the wedding. I said nothing, setting to mugs on the counter. "She's having panic attacks," Sophia continued. "She knows she made a mistake. She just doesn't know how to fix it." "Is that why you're here?" I asked. "To fix it." She shook her head. "No, I'm here to ask." "Is there anything she can say or do to change your mind?" I paused. Was there? Would an apology change how it felt to be excluded? To be used like a bank? To be told you aren't good enough unless your money is? I looked at Sophia, still young, still hopeful. "No," I said quietly. "There isn't." Her shoulders fell. "Not even if she apologizes." I handed her a mug of tea. "Words are easy, Sophia, especially when people are desperate, but the people who love you, they don't wait until you cut them off to see you." Sophia looked down into her tea, nodding slowly. "I get it," she said. "Even if she doesn't." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Collins." "You don't need to be," I replied. We sat in silence for a while. Two women from different generations linked by one hard truth. Sometimes love has limits. Sometimes the only way to be seen is to walk away. Sophia didn't stay long. She didn't try to argue. She just said thanks, hugged me softly, and walked back into the night. And I finally shut the door on a version of myself I had long outgrown. The wedding never happened, not as they planned. Apparently they tried to find another venue, but everything was either booked or too expensive without the money I had once promised. According to Luke, they ended up doing a small backyard ceremony weeks later, just immediate family and Andrew's parents. I wasn't invited, and this time I didn't need to be. In the weeks that followed, Emily sent one more message, a long one. Emotional, part apology, part justification. I read it once, then archived it. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. There is a strange peace that comes with letting go, not in anger, but in understanding. For the first time in decades, I woke up not wondering who needed something from me, not preparing for another guilt trip disguised as love. I made a new rule for myself. If my presence is negotiable, then so is my effort. I go to work. I read books. I joined a pottery class. I have dinners with friends who see me, not what I can give them. And I have learned something I wish I had known sooner. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. If this story touched you, share it, comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Sometimes the most powerful form of love is the one you finally give to yourself.